Attorney Kaufman, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm well, thank you very much.
How is our former President Rodrigo Duterte?
Well, as I've said, he's always in good spirits, but he's 80 years old and he's tired.
Attorney, in your motion to defer adjudication on the urgent request for interim release, you cited several delays and roadblocks. Could you elaborate on the nature of these obstacles? Or are they primarily procedural, diplomatic, or a combination of both?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not entitled to elaborate further. The matter is subject to confidentiality, as you will have seen from the filings on the ICC website. A number of parts of that filing are redacted, and they're redacted for a reason, to protect certain interests.
Attorney, what are the specific delays, whether it is procedural, evidentiary, or logistical, that you believe justify a reassessment of the current schedule for the confirmation of charges?
Well, I want to make it clear, at the present moment in time, the defence hasn't asked to postpone the confirmation of charges hearing. The nature of the delays and the obstacles are confidential, but they are the information that we haven't received, because that's basically the substance of our application, is, in our opinion, crucial for determining an issue which could potentially bar the holding of the confirmation of charges hearing.
Because, Attorney, there is a concern that the pre-trial chamber may interpret this delay as a tactic, stalling measure rather than a legitimate legal need. How do you respond to that?
Well, the pre-trial chamber know exactly what we've argued, and the pre-trial chamber will understand that we're not deliberately stalling. I don't deliberately stall anything. I do what I believe is the best thing to do for the interests of my client.
Okay. How about the Rule 121 of the ICC Rules of Procedures and Evidence, indicating it clearly that ensuring the efficiency of proceedings, in your view, has the Office of the Prosecutor failed to uphold any part of that obligation in this case?
Well, I'm the last person who would normally hand out awards to the prosecution, but to their credit, they have actually met their disclosure requirements as expected in this case. It's not been the case in other situations before the court, but ironically in this case, they have met their disclosure obligations. What I can say that we've been disclosed a huge amount of information, and that will take time to assimilate and to learn.
Attorney, on another note, 3 Philippine senators have called on the Senate to urge the government to formally petition the International Criminal Court for the interim release of the former president, proposing a house arrest arrangement in The Hague. Legally speaking, how likely is the ICC to consider such an appeal under any circumstances, if any? Could this influence the court's discretion in granting interim release under the Rome Statute?
I think such an initiative on behalf of the senators is to be welcomed, because it basically expresses the will of the people. However, the judges rule on evidence and rule on risk factors. So whatever these senators say, and I welcome it, I really do welcome it, and I thank them for it, regardless, the judges have a set of rules which they use to decide whether or not an individual should be released or not.
Attorney Kaufman, is your legal team actively considering the options reportedly raised by Attorney Harry Roque to file a separate civil action under Dutch domestic law challenging the legality of Mr. Duterte's or President Duterte's arrest and detention?
Perhaps you could enlighten me. Where is Harry Roque proposing to file this?
Under Dutch law? Under Dutch legal.
And what's the nature of this? Has he mentioned it in the media?
No, not yet. Because it was proposed that a separate legal remedy filed under Dutch laws could be a possible option. Are you actively proposing the same?
Well, this is not the first time I've heard such a crazy scheme. I would put it that way, because at the end of the day, the Netherlands have to be involved in any request to release an individual from the court, because in order to go to a target country or a country where the person has selected to be the place for him to be under house arrest, should obviously the pre-trial chamber agree, he would have to pass through the Netherlands territory. So to initiate a case in the Netherlands against the Netherlands would be a big mistake.
Aside from the recent efforts filed before the ICC, such as the petitions for disqualification of certain judges and the request for interim release, what other legal avenues or procedural steps are you currently exploring to strengthen the case and secure the eventual return of the former president?
Well, there is a petition before the court for interim release. As you might know from a decision given by the judges yesterday, the decision on interim release will be postponed temporarily in order to allow us to present further crucial information to the pre-trial chamber.
On that note, Attorney, congratulations on the grant of your defense request to defer adjudication of the urgent motion for interim release. Ideally, is this motion expected to be adjudicated prior to the set confirmation of charges?
I hope so, but it's all tied up with the issue of information that we haven't received, delays, which are not attributable to the defense.
What is the legal significance or advantage of granting the deferment of the adjudication of the urgent motion for interim release?
and said we want to have all the information necessary to promote a claim for interim release. We still require crucial information, information which is available and can be made available, but because of various obstacles and delays, we haven't received it. I'm not entitled to elaborate any further on the matter.
Thank you, Attorney. If the interim release is granted, will former President Duterte be placed under arrest only during the pre-trial phase, or will it continue throughout the entire trial if the charges are confirmed?
One would hope that it will continue throughout the whole trial if charges are confirmed, obviously.
Attorney, according to the report, the ICC has disclosed 1,253 items of evidence related to alleged crimes against humanity involving the former president. Have you had the opportunity to review these materials in full? If so, what is your legal assessment or overall impression of the strength and credibility of the body of evidence?
Well, you talk about 1,000 or so items that have been disclosed.
Correct.
However, each one of those items sometimes contain up to 100 or even 200 pages. So it's an immense amount of information. It's disclosed electronically. And we have means and methods using the court's information technology systems to analyze that evidence, to perform keyword searches, to focus in on aspects of the case that interest us for promoting the former president's defense. I'm not going to comment on the strengths and the weaknesses. I'm not allowed to. However, we are busy learning that evidence. We have a short amount of time to do it. We have a fair idea what we want to argue at confirmation, but once again, that's strategy, which I shan't be disclosing in a media interview.
Yes. Do you believe political motivations, either locally or in the Philippines or within the ICC itself, are influencing the pace or direction of the proceedings?
Well, once again, I don't get into politics. That's not my job to start making pronouncements. I've said my views in the past regarding the political motivation behind former President Duterte's current presence in The Hague. But beyond that, I'm not going to comment.
How do you respond to Vice President Inday Sara Duterte's claim that President Marcos Jr. is working with the ICC to remove her father from politics and to keep the ICC relevant?
I'm not going to comment on Vice President's comments to the media. However, what I can say is that no investigations can be carried out in the Philippines without the approval of the Philippines government. Otherwise, it would be a breach of sovereignty. It depends which way you look at it. And once again, the former president was brought here because supposedly the President Marcos, said that he was complying with Interpol. He wasn't complying with Interpol, he was complying with an ICC arrest warrant. So that is cooperation with the court, to which the Philippines is no longer a member.
Are you saying that the Philippines, through these actions, are saying that we are not a sovereign country anymore?
No, I didn't say that. You can't carry out investigative procedures in another country without the approval of that country, otherwise it would be deemed a breach of sovereignty.
Is this action can also be characterized as not believing on our local judiciary?
Well, there's been all sorts of claims made by the current administration. They claim that there's no evidence left because it was all destroyed, and they claim falsely and without any foundation whatsoever that former President Duterte is possibly responsible for the destruction of that evidence. So that's why they argue that he can only be tried here. They've given a number of claims. All the time they're obfuscating the reason for him being transferred to The Hague. What I can say is that the correct place for him to be tried, given our jurisdictional arguments, is in the Philippines. He asked for a Filipino judge, he asked for a Filipino prosecutor, and he said, if I'm found guilty, I will sit in a Filipino prison.
Attorney Kaufman, can I just
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
are you hopeful that it will be dismissed on lack of jurisdiction when Philippine government kidnapped PRRD and have him to ICC and Philippine government cooperating on witnesses, which by indicate the Philippine government recognizing the jurisdiction of the ICC?
Well, that's a bit of a long question, but once again, our jurisdictional arguments are before the court, and the court will give its decision in due course. Whether it gives it before or after the confirmation hearing or during the confirmation hearing, I don't know. We're coming up to the judicial recess, and traditionally, pre-trial chambers have delivered consequential judgments on the last days of the judicial year. So we can only wait and hope.
On the other hand, why postpone confirmation of charges when this further prolong pre-trial detention of PRRD? What's your timeline to have PRRD released?
Well, once again, I haven't asked to postpone yet the confirmation of charges hearing. I'm waiting to receive crucial information, and I've asked the court to decide upon that crucial information before we get to the confirmation of charges hearing.
One last question for me, I'm sorry. Why did you not wait for the documents that you needed before filing the interim release, Attorney Kaufman?
You're assuming that I didn't ask for them before I filed for interim release. Once again, I've told you that there are certain obstacles that have been placed in our way. I'm not entitled to disclose the nature of those obstacles. I hope that they will be lifted and we'll get the information that we require as soon as possible.
Attorney Kaufman, I understand that all available legal remedies before the International Criminal Court have been actively pursued in relation to the case involving our former president. In your assessment, attorney, have these efforts reached a point of diminishing returns? And to what extent do you believe the process have become politicized, if at all?
Listen, it won't serve my interests or Mr. Duterte's interests if I say that the court's a political court. I'm not going to say that, as much as people would want me to say that. It's just self-destructive. We do our best, we're lawyers, we're doing a legal job, we've explored all possible avenues and we've pursued them with maximum vigor.
Attorney, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that the Philippines still has a viable path to bring former President Duterte back home? What factors support that level of confidence?
Between 1 to 10?
Yes.
I would say 100 if President Marcos would invite me to Manila. I'd sit down with him and I'd explain to him that nothing will happen if he allows my clan to go back to Davao. He's an old man. Let him live out his life in peace, quietly, and don't interfere with him.
We understand, attorney, that Senator Marcos also came here twice already because she wanted to have a meeting with the former president and it was not approved by the ICC. What is the weight? Should it be allowed by the ICC, this particular meeting? Will it have an impact?
Once again, there are certain judicial decisions which have been taken which I'm not allowed to comment on.
Thank you, attorney. Last question. Do you have a message for the Filipino people who are closely following the ongoing proceedings before the International Criminal Court involving the former president, Rodrigo Roa Duterte?
Yeah, here I'm going to use the Vice President's words. Take heart, be strong, and pray for his release.
Thank you, attorney. God bless you.